At the surface, the ocean can look almost peaceful enough to trust. Sunlight spreads across the swells in broken silver plates, kelp lifts and sinks in the surge, and seabirds turn circles over water that seems empty from above. But the surface is the least honest part of this world. Beneath it, distance behaves differently. Sound travels faster, light collapses into blue-green layers, and a body can disappear simply by dropping a few meters into the water column. For a seal, sea lion, tuna, or injured animal moving through that upper brightness, danger does not always announce itself as a mouth. Sometimes it begins as a shape rising from below, too deep to read, too fast to escape, and too heavy to survive cleanly. The great white shark belongs at the start of this story because its attack is not just about teeth. The teeth finish the argument. The first argument is physics. A great white does not need to behave like a frantic killer because its body is already built like a moving weapon. Everything about it solves the same problem: how to turn distance into impact before prey can make a useful decision. Its torpedo-shaped body reduces drag. Its crescent tail delivers powerful side-to-side thrust. Its pectoral fins stabilize, lift the way wings stabilize aircraft. Its liver, rich with oil, helps control buoyancy without the constant heavy effort many fish would need. Even its pale underside and darker upper body matter, because countershading breaks its outline depending on where the viewer is looking from. Seen from above, the dark back blends into deeper water. Seen from below, the white belly can vanish into glare. This is not decoration, it is attack geometry written into the animal's skin. The most terrifying version of a great white strike begins below the prey, where the shark can use the water itself as cover. Near the surface, prey animals often have to divide attention between breathing, swimming, scanning, and staying with a group. Seals and sea lions are agile, but they also have a problem sharks do not share. They are air-breathing mammals working inside a three-dimensional hunting ground. They must surface. They must expose themselves. They often move in and out of glare, foam, kelp shadow, and broken light. And every one of those visual interruptions creates a moment where a predator can close distance. A great white can patrol below that broken ceiling, watching silhouettes pass across the light. It does not have to chase everything. In fact, chasing too early would waste energy and reveal the attack. The stronger strategy is patience, angle, and timing. That upward attack is where the animal becomes more battering ram than ordinary predator. A large great white can weigh more than a small car, and even when it is not moving at its maximum speed, its mass gives the strike enormous consequence. Momentum is not dramatic language here. It is the central mechanism. Momentum is mass multiplied by velocity, and in the ocean, that means a heavy body moving fast carries a blunt force message before the jaws even close. The prey does not just experience a bite, it experiences a collision from below, from a direction its body is poorly prepared to defend against. The first contact can throw a seal partly out of the water, break rhythm, rupture control, and destroy orientation. In that instant, the prey's escape plan may fail before blood loss even matters. This is why the shark's first hit is so different from the image most people carry in their heads. People imagine the danger as teeth entering flesh, and of course the teeth are terrible. Triangular, serrated, replaceable, arranged for slicing rather than chewing. But by the time those teeth become visible, the most important part of the attack may already have happened. A surprise strike from depth compresses the entire event into a fraction of a second. The prey is swimming through one world, Then another body arrives with enough force to change its direction, damage tissue, and steal coordination. Even a missed or partial bite can matter if the impact disrupts the animal long enough for a second pass. That is the brutal efficiency of a predator built around high-stakes contact. It does not need many chances because each chance is heavy. The great white's senses make that kind of precision possible. Its eyes are adapted for hunting in shifting light, but vision is only one layer. It can detect vibration through the lateral line system, reading movement patterns in the water that reveal struggling prey, swimming rhythm, or sudden panic. It can smell chemical traces carried through currents, though scent alone does not create the final strike. It helps build the map. Most famously, it has electroreceptive organs around the snout, called ampullae of Lorenzini, which can detect weak electrical fields produced by muscle movement and biological activity at close range. This does not mean the shark has some supernatural targeting system from miles away. The real version is better because it is more believable and more dangerous. At short distances, in dim water, when a hidden or wounded animal is close, the shark has another layer of information most prey cannot block. Its physiology gives the strike another advantage. Great whites are not cold, sluggish fish waiting for warmth to animate them. They are regionally endothermic, meaning parts of their bodies can stay warmer than the surrounding water through specialized heat exchange systems. That warmth supports stronger swimming muscles, sharper performance in cooler seas, and long movements through productive coastal zones where seals, sea lions, and large fish gather. This matters because a predator that depends on acceleration cannot afford to be passive machinery. It needs muscle ready before the moment arrives. In colder water, where many animals slow down, the great white can still bring force into the strike. The shark is not simply surviving the ocean's temperature, it is using physiology to remain dangerous inside it. The hunting ground itself shapes the violence. Along seal colonies, rocky islands, kelp edges, and continental shelf zones, the ocean becomes a landscape of ambush opportunities. Depth is cover, glare is cover. The vertical gap between predator and prey is cover. A seal moving at the surface might have agility, but agility is less useful when the first warning comes from beneath the body. The shark's upward path reduces the prey's reaction window because the attack comes from a blind zone and closes into the surface, where escape options shrink. The prey can turn left or right, dive or roll, but the strike has already chosen the shortest route through space. A great white does not need to win a long race if it can arrange the first second correctly. That is where the title's core idea becomes clear. The predator's success is not only biological, but mechanical. The great white is applying mass through water with devastating economy. A smaller predator may rely on speed alone. A venomous predator may rely on chemistry after contact. A constrictor may rely on sustained pressure. The great white combines stealth, acceleration, and body weight into one instant of violent transfer. It turns the ocean's open space into a launch corridor. The prey experiences the attack less like being chased by an animal and more like being hit by the ocean itself. There is an almost cold intelligence in how little waste the strategy allows. Great whites often investigate, test, and abandon prey depending on energy value, risk, and opportunity. They are not machines blindly biting everything that moves. Large predators have to make decisions because injury is expensive, wasted effort is expensive, and a failed attack can cost more energy than it returns. Seals and sea lions are not helpless targets. They are muscular, fast, and capable of sharp turns. That is exactly why the first strike matters so much. If the prey remains fully coordinated, the hunt becomes harder. If the first hit damages control, the calculation changes. The shark's best weapon is not cruelty, it is avoiding a fair contest. From a camera's view below the surface, the scene would not begin with chaos. It would begin with empty water, faint particles drifting in shafts of light, the muffled crackle of distant surf, and the shadow of a seal cutting across the bright ceiling. Then, a darker shape appears from depth, almost too smoothly to read as urgent. The tail beats do not look frantic. They look final. The shark's head fixes the line. The body follows. The angle steepens. The distance collapses. In the last moment, what looked like open water becomes a trajectory, and what looked like a predator becomes impact. The collision rewrites the scene. Foam erupts at the surface. The seal's body loses its clean swimming line. Bubbles flash white around twisting limbs. The shark's jaws may close into flesh, but the strike has already delivered the first disabling force. The prey is no longer just escaping an animal. It is trying to recover from a physical event its nervous system did not have time to prepare for. That is the darker truth behind the great white's reputation. It is not fearsome because it is always attacking. It is fearsome because when it chooses the moment correctly, the ocean gives it every advantage: concealment, depth, speed, angle, and mass. This is why the great white remains one of the clearest examples of predatory physics on Earth. Its body is not overcomplicated. It does not need venom, traps, pack coordination, or camouflage that mimics leaves and stones. It uses the basic laws of movement with extraordinary biological refinement. Weight becomes force, speed becomes damage, angle becomes surprise, the calm surface becomes a lie. And in the space between one heartbeat and the next, a quiet blue world turns into a battering ram with teeth. In colder seas, where the light arrives thin and the wind drags long scars across the surface, the ocean does not feel empty. It feels watched. Ice floes grind softly against one another. Seabirds hang above the chop, and seals rest on platforms that seem safe only because they are not yet moving. Below that broken roof of water and ice, black and white bodies travel with a calm that looks almost too deliberate for hunting. Orcas do not enter a scene like blunt force predators. They enter it like a plan becoming visible. Their size alone would be enough to make them dangerous. Powerful bodies, heavy skulls, conical teeth, muscular tails, and the ability to accelerate with shocking force. But size is the least interesting part of their threat. An orca does not simply attack an animal inside water. It understands water as a medium that can be pushed, shaped, timed, and turned into pressure. Where the great white shark turns its own body into a collision, the orca expands the weapon outward until the sea itself becomes part of the strike. That difference changes everything. A single orca is formidable, but an orca group is something rarer in nature. A predator system built from memory, communication, role assignment, and shared timing. Many predators cooperate, but orcas take coordination into a level that feels almost engineered. They travel in family groups with long-lasting social bonds, and different populations develop distinct hunting cultures, passing specialized techniques through generations. Some groups chase schooling fish into tight balls before stunning them with tail slaps. Others pursue marine mammals with patience and position rather than speed alone. In Antarctic waters, some orcas create waves to wash seals from ice. Along certain coasts, they may drive prey toward shallows, kelp, or other physical barriers that reduce maneuverability. The important point is not that orcas are smart in a vague way. The important point is that their intelligence becomes physical. It changes the water around the prey. At the surface, a resting seal on an ice floe appears to have solved one problem. It is out of the water, away from jaws, and surrounded by a platform that seems to separate its body from the predators below. But the orcas do not need to climb onto the ice. They only need to make the ice unreliable. Several whales align beneath the surface, their dorsal fins cutting through the grey water as they build a synchronized approach. The movement is not random charging, it is group hydrodynamics. Their bodies displace water as they accelerate together, and that displaced water travels outward as force. When the timing is precise, the combined push forms a wave that lifts and tilts the ice sheet. The seal's refuge becomes unstable under its own weight. What looked like a barrier becomes a lever. The first wave may not finish the hunt. That is part of the cruelty and the brilliance of the method. Orcas often test, adjust, circle back, and repeat. If the seal remains on the floe, they may return with a better angle, a more unified line, or a larger wave. The water carries the pressure from bodies the seal cannot touch, and the ice transfers that pressure into motion beneath its feet. The prey is not bitten yet, not even contacted directly, but its options are already collapsing. Stay on the ice, and the platform may roll or fracture. Enter the water, and the predators control the space below. The seal is placed inside a decision trap where every choice has been shaped before it makes one. This is the orca's signature physics: control before contact. Teeth are useful only when escape has been reduced. Orcas understand, through experience rather than equations, that water is not just the background of the hunt, it is a force carrier. A tail slap can stun fish because the blow does not need to land directly on every body. The shock travels through the dense fluid around them. A surge from one flank can push prey toward another whale. A coordinated turn can close an opening before the prey reaches it. A broad body can block a route in three-dimensional space as effectively as a wall blocks a corridor on land. The ocean has no fences, but orcas build temporary ones from position, speed, and pressure. A fish school reveals this strategy in miniature. Herring, for example, survive by becoming many bodies at once. They flash, turn, compress, and scatter, using confusion as a defense. Against a simple predator, this works because no single target remains predictable for long. Orcas change the rules. They may herd the school from below and around the sides, driving the fish into a tighter and tighter bait ball. The fish respond to pressure by crowding together, and that defensive crowding becomes the trap. Once compressed, the school cannot turn freely. Individuals lose space. The group's protective geometry becomes a dense target. Then comes the tail slap, a heavy fluke sweeping through the water with enough force to stun or kill multiple fish at once. The orca does not need to bite every prey item in motion. It first turns many separate animals into one controlled mass, then uses water to transmit impact across that mass. The tail slap is a perfect example of orca violence because it looks almost casual until the physics is understood. A fluke is not just a paddle, it is a muscular hydrofoil attached to one of the strongest engines in the sea. When driven sideways or downward through water, it creates a rapid pressure change and a burst of turbulence. Fish caught near that impulse can be disoriented, injured, or stunned, their bodies suddenly unable to maintain the coordinated escape patterns that kept them alive moments before. The strike is not elegant in the way a falcon's dive is elegant. It is more like watching a door slam underwater. The prey may never be touched by teeth. It may simply lose the ability to swim correctly in a medium that has turned against it. With larger prey, the same principle becomes more tactical. A seal, sea lion, dolphin, or even a young whale does not need to be killed immediately if it can first be tired, separated, rolled, or forced into a bad angle. Orcas are masters of making prey spend energy inefficiently. They may pressure an animal from multiple sides, forcing repeated turns that break rhythm and increase oxygen demand. They may keep a breathing mammal from resting or reaching safe cover. They may split one individual away from a group, not through blind speed, but by occupying escape lanes until the herd's protection opens and closes around the wrong animal. The attack becomes a moving net. The prey is not trapped by material, but by prediction. Body positioning is central to that net. One orca can appear in front of the prey to interrupt forward movement. Another can rise from below, forcing a climb or roll. A third can move along the side, preventing a lateral escape. The water makes every movement costly because the prey must constantly accelerate, turn, and correct its balance, while the orcas take turns applying pressure. In this system, teamwork protects the hunters from wasting energy. No single whale has to sprint endlessly. The group can rotate roles, with one animal driving while another waits to cut off the next move. This is predation as endurance chess, except the board is liquid and the pieces weigh several tons. What makes orcas especially dangerous is that their bodies and minds are tuned to the same environment. Their black and white coloration may help disrupt their outline in shifting water and social movement, but their real sensory power lies deeper. Orcas use sound with extraordinary sophistication. Echolocation clicks travel through water, bounce off objects, and return information about shape, distance, and movement. In murky water, under ice, or during group hunts where visual contact can break, sound allows them to map the scene with a precision land animals can hardly imagine. They are not merely seeing prey, they are reading space acoustically. They can coordinate in a medium where sound moves faster and farther than it does in air, turning the ocean into a communication field. This acoustic world adds another layer to the weaponization of water. Every movement matters. The splash of a seal, the frantic vibration of schooling fish, the turbulence of a tired animal breaking rhythm. Water preserves and carries these signals. Panic is not silent beneath the surface. It pulses outward through pressure, sound, and motion. Orcas are built to detect those changes and respond as a group. A prey animal that begins to tire may not visibly collapse at first, but its swimming becomes less clean. Its turns widen, its recovery slows, its breathing pattern shifts. In the open ocean, those small failures can be enough. An orca does not need the prey to stop. It only needs the prey to become predictable. Even their thermoregulation supports this hunting life. Orcas occupy cold waters across much of the world, and their thick blubber insulates them against heat loss while also storing energy for long movements. Their large bodies help conserve heat, but size creates another demand. They must find enough food to support such powerful metabolism and travel. This is one reason hunting culture matters so much. A specialized technique is not a trick. It is an energy strategy. A pod that knows how to herd fish efficiently, wash seals from ice, or isolate marine mammals is not just being clever for the sake of cleverness. It is solving the biological problem of feeding large, warm-blooded bodies in a cold, fluid world. The most unsettling thing about orca predation is how often it removes the fantasy of a fair chase. Many prey animals survive by trusting water's openness. They turn, dive, scatter, hide in groups, rest on ice, or use speed in bursts. Orcas attack those solutions directly. If the prey scatters, they herd. If it rests on ice, they move the ice. If it relies on a group, they separate one body from the edge. If it uses agility, they force repeated turns until agility becomes exhaustion. If it dives, they can follow or wait above. Their weapon is not one movement, but the ability to make the prey's best answer become the next problem. A camera watching from above might see only dorsal fins and spreading rings, but from underwater, the design becomes clearer. The orcas do not fill the frame with chaos, they define the frame. One dark body glides left, another rises from beneath, another hangs back in the direction the prey is most likely to flee. The water around them bends into wakes and pressure lines. A seal twists away from one whale and meets the space already occupied by another. A fish school flashes silver and folds in on itself. A young marine mammal breaks the surface to breathe and finds the group still there, patient, silent, and positioned like the ocean has developed intent. This is why the orca's teeth, impressive as they are not the true beginning of the attack. The bite is often the last page of a strategy written earlier in movement. Timing makes the group act as one larger organism. Teamwork keeps pressure constant without exhausting each hunter. Fluid dynamics carries force beyond the body that produced it. Water becomes hammer, wall, messenger, and trap. In the hands of a less intelligent predator, the sea is only a place to swim. In the control of orcas, it becomes equipment. That is the deeper fear behind these animals. They do not simply overpower prey. They reorganize the environment until overpowering becomes easier. They turn escape angles into narrowing corridors, resting places into unstable platforms, schools into compressed targets, and panic into readable information. The ocean remains the same substance it was before the hunt began, but under orca control, it behaves differently for the prey. It pushes from the wrong side, it rolls the safe surface, it carries the slap, it closes the gap. In the end, the orca's violence is not just in the mouth. It is in the seconds before the mouth is needed, when the water starts moving in ways the prey did not choose. A wave rises where safety used to be. A pressure pulse knocks order out of a school. A black and white body appears exactly where the last open route should have been. The strike becomes almost inevitable, not because the prey is weak, but because the orcas have already reduced the world around it. In their ocean, intelligence has mass, timing has force, teamwork has teeth before the jaws ever close. A carpet python does not need the violence of a charging predator to make an ecosystem feel dangerous. It works in a quieter language: distance, grip, leverage, and time. In the eucalyptus woodlands, rainforest edges, rocky gullies, farm sheds, hollow trunks, and warm roof cavities of Australia, this snake moves through spaces that already favor patience. It can lie along a branch where bark shadows break its pattern into fragments. It can fold itself into a tree hollow with only the head exposed. It can rest above a beam in a roof space where rodents use the same narrow routes every night, confident that darkness and habit are enough protection. From a distance, the python looks almost passive, like an ornament left by the landscape. That is the mistake. A carpet python is not passive. It is compressed engineering. Its danger begins with the strike, but the strike is only the first equation. Unlike a shark's collision or an orca's coordinated manipulation of water, the carpet python's physics becomes most terrifying after contact. The head fires forward in a short, precise burst, usually from a distance far smaller than people imagine. Snakes are not built for endless pursuit. A python does not want a long chase across open ground, because speed over distance is not its strongest advantage. Its advantage is the ability to place its skull exactly where the prey's movement will bring flesh within range. The strike is fast because it is limited. A short distance, a sudden release of neck and body muscles, a set of recurved teeth designed not to slice but to hold. Once those teeth anchor, the real machine begins. The anchor bite matters because the python's mouth is not just a weapon, it is a fastening point. Its teeth curve backward, so when prey pulls away, it often pulls itself deeper into the grip rather than cleanly escaping. This gives the snake a stable point around which the rest of the body can organize. That stability is everything. Without it, the python is only a long, muscular animal trying to manage a struggling body. With it, the snake can convert one contact into control. The head holds. The body arrives. One loop becomes a brace. Another becomes pressure. Another removes a direction of escape. Each curve of muscle changes the geometry of the struggle until the prey is no longer fighting a bite, but an entire living structure tightening around it. This is why the carpet python feels like a living machine. It does not need drama, because the mechanics are already brutal. The snake's body is a chain of coordinated muscle segments, each capable of gripping, bending, and applying force. When it throws loops around prey, it is not randomly tangling itself. It is building a pressure system. The loops settle around the chest, shoulders, neck, or body, depending on the prey's position and size. The snake uses its own body as rope, clamp, and pulley. Friction becomes part of the weapon. Against feathers, fur, bark, rough timber, branch forks, or the walls of a hollow, the python can hold traction. The prey's attempts to twist away may only help tighten the angles. Constriction is often misunderstood because the simplest myth is also the most cinematic. The snake crushes bones first. That can happen in some circumstances with some prey, but it is not the main killing mechanism. The true danger is more efficient and more biological. Constriction interferes with circulation and breathing mechanics. As the loops tighten around the body, pressure can restrict venous return, making it harder for blood to flow back to the heart. It can interfere with arterial flow, reducing the delivery of oxygenated blood to vital tissues. It can also prevent the chest from expanding properly, so each breath becomes shallower or impossible. The python is not merely squeezing an object. It is disrupting the prey's internal transport system. Oxygen stops moving where it needs to go. The heart struggles against pressure. The lungs lose mechanical space. A living body becomes a system being shut down from the outside. The snake's timing inside that process is remarkable. Constrictors can respond to movement, tightening more when prey struggles and sometimes relaxing once movement fades. That makes the pressure feel almost adaptive, as if the coil is listening. In a way, it is. The snake can detect motion through direct contact. Every kick, wing beat, claw scrape, or chest expansion sends information through the loops. The python does not need to see the whole prey clearly once the hold is established. The body itself becomes the sensory surface. Struggle tells the snake where force is still needed. Stillness tells it when the mechanical battle is ending. It is not intelligent in the orca's cultural, tactical sense, but it is exquisitely tuned to the physics of contact. Tight spaces make this strategy even more dangerous. On open ground, prey at least has room to rotate, kick, bite, flap, or drag the snake into a less favorable position. In a branch fork, hollow log, burrow entrance, or roof cavity, the environment begins helping the python. A possum wedged among beams cannot roll freely. A rat inside a wall gap cannot create distance once the snake blocks the route behind it. A bird in a nest hollow may beat its wings, but the walls turn those wings into trapped motion. A bat or small mammal using a predictable passage may discover too late that the corridor has become a clamp. The python does not have to overpower every direction at once if the structure removes several directions for free. This is the hidden power of constriction in enclosed places. The snake's body loops around the prey, while the environment prevents the prey from changing the contest. A branch can act like a brace, a hollow can stop rotation, a roof beam can pin one side of the struggle. Friction against timber or bark helps the python hold position, while the prey spends energy against surfaces that do not move. In that moment, the snake is not simply fighting with muscle, it is using architecture. The living coil and the physical space become one trap. Carpet pythons are especially well suited to this kind of hunting because they are versatile climbers and opportunistic predators. Their patterned scales break their outline across dappled light, dry leaves, bark, and shadow. Their muscular bodies can move across ground, branches, fences, rafters, and rock faces with patient control. They feed on mammals, birds, reptiles, and sometimes bats, taking advantage of whatever regular movement the habitat provides. A rodent run through a roof space, a bird returning to a nest, a possum using the same branch bridge, a lizard basking too long near cover. All of these are not just prey choices. They are repeated routes, and repeated routes are where ambush predators make their living. Their sensory equipment supports that lifestyle. Like many pythons, carpet pythons have heat-sensitive labial pits along the jaws, allowing them to detect warm-bodied prey in darkness or cluttered spaces. This does not turn the snake into a fantasy heat-seeking missile, but it does give it a powerful close-range advantage. In a roof cavity at night, where vision is limited and prey movement is brief, warmth matters. A mouse behind insulation, a bird under feathers, a possum pressed into a hollow. These are not just shapes. They are heat signatures moving through a cool background. The python's tongue gathers chemical information, sampling scent particles and delivering them to the vomeronasal system, helping it track where prey has been and where it may pass again. The hunt is built from patience, smell, heat, vibration, and position. Thermoregulation sits underneath all of it. A carpet python is ectothermic, relying on external heat sources to regulate body temperature. It may bask in sunlit patches, absorb warmth from rocks, shelter in insulated hollows, or use human structures that hold heat after sunset. A warm roof space can become more than shelter. It can become a hunting platform with stable temperature and regular prey traffic. This matters because muscle performance, digestion, and movement all depend on temperature. After a large meal, a python needs warmth to digest efficiently. Before a strike, warmth helps its muscles deliver the rapid burst needed to secure contact. The snake's life is a negotiation with heat, and its hunting success often depends on choosing places where the body can remain ready without wasting energy. Once prey is subdued, the mechanical story continues in a different form. The python must swallow its meal whole, and that requires a skull built for extraordinary flexibility. The jaws do not dislocate in the cartoonish sense people often repeat. Instead, the skull has highly mobile joints and elastic ligaments that allow the mouth to expand around prey. The left and right sides of the lower jaw can move with a kind of walking motion, gradually drawing the prey inward. The teeth help ratchet the meal backward. The body follows with slow, muscular waves. This is not fast, but it is efficient. A python may spend a long time consuming one prey item, then rest for extended periods while digestion does the hidden work. The scene itself can be almost silent. In a forest hollow, the camera would catch little more than a patterned body pressed into shadow, the soft scrape of scales against bark, a possum shifting through a familiar route. The snake does not rush. Its head is aligned with the opening where the prey must pass. The first movement is sudden enough to feel like the branch has produced jaws. The bite lands and holds. Then the body gathers forward, loop after loop, with a calm that is more disturbing than chaos. The prey's movement becomes smaller not because the snake is angry, but because the physics are becoming worse every second. That is the carpet python's place in this story of predatory force. It proves that power does not always announce itself through speed, size, or noise. Sometimes power is the ability to create one stable contact point and turn it into total control. The strike begins the equation, but the coil solves it. Every loop increases friction, reduces movement, restricts circulation, limits breathing, and turns the surrounding space against the prey. In a tight branch fork, hollow trunk, or warm roof cavity, the python does not need to dominate the whole world. It only needs to dominate the few centimeters that matter. Once it has those, the rest of the body arrives like a machine closing around a mistake. Heat changes the Australian ground before anything moves across it. By late morning, the bark of fallen eucalyptus logs is warm enough to hold the print of the sun. Granite outcrops throw hard light into the scrub, and the dry leaf litter carries every small movement as a brittle whisper. In this kind of landscape, danger does not always wait at the waterline or hang silently from a branch. Sometimes it moves openly, with its body low, its claws spread, its tongue cutting the air, and its whole frame built around the simple fact that land is full of leverage. A goanna is not just a large lizard wandering through the bush. That description is too soft, almost useless. A goanna is a mobile power tool with eyes, muscle, claws, and a nervous system tuned to turn rough terrain into advantage. The first thing that makes a goanna dangerous is not the bite. It is the body behind the bite. The long trunk rides low to the ground, giving the animal a stable center of gravity as it moves over sand, roots, rocks, and fallen wood. The limbs are strong and angled for pushing, gripping, and scrambling rather than delicate walking. Each foot carries curved claws that can dig into bark, soil, rotten timber, and uneven stone, giving the lizard traction where many prey animals lose clean movement. The tail is not decoration, it acts as a counterbalance, especially during sudden turns, climbs, lunges, and braced pulling. When a goanna accelerates over broken ground, the body does not behave like a stiff reptilian tube. It becomes a coordinated system of drive and balance, with the limbs launching, the spine flexing, and the tail stabilizing every change in direction. That matters because land predation is rarely as clean as one perfect strike. On land, prey can dodge behind roots, vanish under logs, scramble up trunks, enter burrows, or use clutter to break line of sight. A predator that depends on one flawless hit will lose many opportunities. A goanna's strength is different. It can turn a messy chase into a sequence of small mechanical victories, grip the ground, pull over a log, climb the trunk, hook the claws into bark, push the prey toward a bad angle, bite, reposition, bite again. This is not elegant in the way a raptor's dive is elegant. It is more like watching a living crowbar work its way through a locked door. The head is constantly sampling the world as the lizard moves. The forked tongue flicks out and retracts, collecting chemical particles and delivering them to the vomeronasal system inside the mouth. To a viewer, it can look like restless curiosity. In reality, the animal is reading invisible trails, the path of a rodent, the musk of a reptile, the scent of eggs, carrion, insects, nesting birds, or something wounded and still moving. Goannas are opportunists, and that opportunism is not weakness. It is one of their great evolutionary strengths. In a harsh environment where meals may be scattered, hidden, seasonal or defended, a predator that can hunt, scavenge, dig, climb, raid nests, and investigate scent trails has more ways to win. When the chase begins, the goanna's body suddenly explains itself. Its limbs drive hard against the ground, claws scraping for purchase, tail held behind like a balancing boom. The head stays forward, the body close to the substrate, the whole animal moving with a speed that feels wrong if someone expected a slow reptile. Many people underestimate reptiles because they confuse stillness with sluggishness. That is a bad read. Stillness in an ectothermic predator often means energy control, not inability. A warmed goanna can produce sharp bursts of speed, and because it does not waste effort maintaining a high internal temperature the way mammals and birds do, it can spend long periods conserving energy before committing to movement. The sun is part of its engine. Rocks, roads, logs, and exposed ground become thermal stations where the lizard charges its body before the next opportunity. The bite itself is not just a closing jaw, it is head movement, neck drive, grip, and repetition. A goanna strikes forward with the head, seizes with the jaws, then uses the neck and body to pull, twist, and tear. The teeth are not built like a cat's killing canines or a shark's serrated blades, but they are sharp enough, recurved enough, and backed by enough motion to make escape costly. The real damage comes from the whole sequence. Clamp, brace, yank, reset, clamp again. A prey animal caught at the edge of a hollow or against a log may not have room to pull straight away. If it twists, the goanna twists with it. If it tries to retreat into cover, the lizard may use claws and body weight to keep pressure on the opening. The attack becomes less like a single blow and more like repeated mechanical advantage applied to a weakening point. Terrain is where this predator becomes far more interesting than a simple big lizard label. A fallen log is not just an obstacle, it is a ramp, a brace, and sometimes a trap wall. A burrow entrance is not just a hole, it is a funnel where prey has fewer directions to move. A tree trunk is not just escape for a bird, possum, or lizard. It is a vertical surface. The goanna can climb with frightening commitment. The claws bite into bark, the body presses close, the tail helps counterbalance, and suddenly the route that looked safe becomes part of the chase. Even hollows and cracks can become dangerous if the lizard can wedge its head, hook its claws, and pull at whatever is inside. The prey is not simply being hunted by an animal, it is being hunted by an animal that understands rough surfaces through its body. This is especially important around nests and shelters. Eggs, chicks, small mammals, reptiles, and insects often depend on hidden spaces for protection. But a hiding place can become a trap when the predator is narrow enough to investigate, strong enough to dig, and persistent enough to keep working the entrance. A goanna can nose into cavities, claw at bark, tear at rotten wood, and use its long neck to reach into spaces that many predators cannot exploit. If prey retreats deeper, it may buy time, but it may also surrender mobility. A burrow or hollow protects from open attack while also limiting escape angles. That is the constant bargain of shelter in the wild. Safety from one direction often creates vulnerability from another. The goanna's claws deserve more attention because they are part of almost every phase of the hunt. They do not simply help the lizard climb, they let it hold the world still while the jaws do the moving. Against loose soil, claws dig in and create traction. Against bark, they hook into cracks and ridges. Against prey, they can pin, rake, or stabilize the body during a bite. This is the land version of mechanical control. The predator anchors itself to the environment so that every pull from the neck and jaws has something solid behind it. A weak stance wastes force. A braced goanna turns force into progress. That is why rough terrain, which seems chaotic to prey, can become useful to the predator. Every root, stone, trunk, and bank can become a handle. There is also a psychological trap in how goannas move. They can look investigative rather than predatory until the distance closes. A tongue flick, a pause, a shift of the head, a slow approach along a log. These movements do not always announce immediate attack. But the lizard is collecting information and improving position. Once it has the right angle, the change in speed can be startling. Prey that waits too long to flee may discover that the goanna does not need to be built for endless pursuit. It only needs to close the first workable gap, force the prey into clutter, and keep applying pressure after contact. The physics is not perfection, it is persistence with leverage. Unlike the freshwater crocodile, which compresses the hunt into one waterline launch, the goanna's advantage unfolds across repeated adjustments. It can miss and still continue. It can bite and lose grip, then chase into a worse position for the prey. It can climb when the prey climbs, dig when the prey hides, pull when the prey braces, and reposition when the first angle fails. That adaptability makes it feel more like a terrestrial machine than a single-purpose ambush specialist. The crocodile waits for the exact cone of attack. The goanna manufactures better angles as the hunt develops. The camera would catch this best at ground level. A small mammal darts across dry leaves toward a fallen trunk, choosing the shadow beneath it because shadow usually means cover. Behind it, the goanna's claws strike the ground in short, hard beats. Dust lifts. The tail swings for balance as the lizard angles toward the log instead of following the prey's exact path. That matters. It is not merely chasing where the prey was. It is cutting toward where the prey must pass. The mammal squeezes along the edge of the timber, but the gap narrows. The goanna's head drives in, jaws snapping, claws gripping the bark as the body braces. The first bite may not finish anything, it may not need to. The prey jerks back, the lizard pulls forward, and the log that promised shelter becomes a wall against which the struggle loses space. This is why goannas add a different kind of energy to the story of predator physics. They are not the largest killers, not the cleanest ambush artists, and not the most famous reptilian monsters in Australia. But they reveal something essential about land predation. Force does not have to arrive all at once. Sometimes, force is built through sequence. A claw hold here, a bite there, a body pressed low for traction, a tail correcting balance, a neck pulling with sudden violence, a trunk blocking the prey's rotation, a burrow removing escape routes, another strike arriving before the animal can recover. The goanna wins by stacking small advantages until the prey runs out of good positions. In that sense, the goanna is one of the most honest predators in the landscape. It shows the work. It uses the ground, the heat, the bark, the claws, the jaws, and the body in full view, turning the bush into a workshop of pressure and leverage. Nothing about it needs exaggeration. The animal is already strange enough, a reptile that can smell a hidden meal, sprint across hot earth, climb like a hooked tool, tear with repeated head movements, and keep coming when the first strike does not end the fight. The physics here is not a single perfect impact. It is grip, pull, reposition, and strike again. A land predator converting every surface into a way to make escape worse. The freshwater crocodile does not enter this story by being the biggest predator in the water. That crown belongs elsewhere, and in northern Australia there is no point pretending otherwise. Beside a saltwater crocodile, the freshwater crocodile looks narrower, lighter, almost specialized to the point of understatement. Its snout is slimmer, its body less massive, its reputation less apocalyptic. But that is exactly why it belongs here. Size can make danger obvious. Precision makes danger easy to underestimate. The freshwater crocodile is not built to dominate every riverbank through overwhelming bulk. It is built to wait inside the edge of visibility, reduce waste, and launch only when distance, angle, and timing have already done half the work. In the dry heat of northern Australia, freshwater rivers can shrink into clear pools, narrow channels, and rocky waterholes bordered by pandanus roots, paperbark trees, sun-warmed stone, and mats of floating vegetation. The surface seems calm in a way that feels trustworthy. Dragonflies hover over the shallows. Small fish flicker between submerged branches. Birds step carefully along the muddy edges, lowering their heads to drink. Lizards pause on rocks where the sun has stored heat all morning. This is not the heavy, tidal, mangrove dark world of the saltwater crocodile. It is leaner, brighter, more exposed. And that exposure creates the illusion that danger should be easier to see. The freshwater crocodile survives by proving that assumption wrong. At the waterline, the animal can reduce itself to almost nothing. Only the eyes, nostrils, and the highest ridge of the skull may break the surface. The rest of the body hangs below, aligned with the water, its limbs tucked close, its long tail suspended like a loaded spring. This posture is not lazy drifting, it is low-drag concealment. A crocodile does not need to waste energy holding a dramatic hunting pose. It only needs enough buoyancy control and muscle tension to remain ready. Water supports the body, hides the outline, muffles small adjustments, and turns stillness into camouflage. The crocodile's dark upper body blends into reflections, shadow, and riverbed color, while the broken surface disguises the exact position of the jaws. To prey at the edge, the danger is not invisible because it is magical. It is invisible because the animal has made almost every useful part of itself disappear. The launch begins long before the body moves. It begins with distance being measured in the oldest possible way, by experience, by repeated failure, by a nervous system shaped around the narrow difference between reachable and wasted effort. Reptiles are often described as energy conservers, but that phrase can sound too passive. In a freshwater crocodile, energy conservation is active strategy. It does not chase badly simply because chasing badly is expensive. An ectothermic predator depends on external heat to power its body processes, and although crocodiles can produce explosive movement, they cannot afford to spend that power on every passing shadow. A missed strike is not just embarrassing, it is a metabolic mistake. The crocodile waits until the prey has already entered the zone where a short burst can solve the problem. That zone is the ambush cone. It is not a visible shape in the water, but the entire hunt depends on it. In front of the crocodile's head is a narrow region where the jaws, neck, body, and tail can deliver force quickly enough to beat the prey's reaction. Outside that cone, a bird may spring away, a fish may turn, A lizard may scramble beyond reach. Inside it, reaction time collapses. The prey may see movement, but seeing movement is not the same as escaping it. Nerves must detect the threat, muscles must fire, feet or fins must find traction, and the body must move in the correct direction. The crocodile's strike is designed to happen during that delay. It does not need the prey to be stupid. It only needs the prey to be close. The physics of the launch are brutally clean. From stillness, the crocodile compresses power through the trunk and tail. The limbs may brace or assist depending on depth and position, but the tail is the main engine, sweeping against the water to drive the body forward. Because the crocodile has kept a streamlined posture, it does not begin by fighting its own shape. The head comes first, the jaws open, and the body follows in a short, explosive line. In shallow water, that launch can feel almost like the riverbank itself has snapped shut. There is no long pursuit, no dramatic chase across open ground. The entire event is built around a distance so small that the prey's world changes before it can reorganize. This is where the freshwater crocodile becomes a perfect study in ambush physics. A predator that relies on pursuit must win over time. A predator that relies on ambush must win before time exists for the prey. The crocodile's patience is not separate from the strike. It is part of the strike. Every second of waiting improves the odds if it brings the prey closer, more distracted, more committed to a vulnerable posture. A bird dipping its beak to drink shifts weight forward. A wallaby or small mammal at the edge lowers its head and narrows its attention. A fish moving into shallows may lose depth as an escape route. A frog crossing floating vegetation may be suspended between water and air with no solid platform beneath it. The crocodile does not need to understand these moments as concepts. Its hunting life is built from them. Freshwater crocodiles are often associated with fish, and their narrow snouts are well suited to snapping at quick aquatic prey. A slender jaw creates less resistance when moved rapidly through water, which matters when the target is small, slippery, and capable of sudden turns. But they are not limited to fish. They are opportunists, and the waterline brings many animals into the same dangerous theater. Insects, frogs, reptiles, birds, and small mammals can all become part of the menu when they enter the wrong distance. That flexibility is important in seasonal landscapes where water levels rise, fall, fragment, and reconnect. A crocodile that can exploit whatever comes within range does not need constant abundance. It needs position. The animal's sensory world makes that position even more lethal. Crocodilians have extremely sensitive pressure-detecting organs in the skin around the jaws and body, allowing them to register disturbances in the water. A ripple is not just a ripple. It can be information, the tremor of a fish, the touch of a foot, the vibration of something entering the shallows. Above the surface, the elevated eyes allow the crocodile to watch while most of the head remains hidden. The nostrils let it breathe without revealing much more. A transparent, nictitating membrane can protect the eyes underwater while still allowing vision. These are not exotic tricks. They are practical solutions to one problem repeated for millions of years: how to remain almost absent until the exact moment presence becomes unavoidable. Temperature adds another layer to this timing. A freshwater crocodile may bask to raise its body temperature, warming the muscles and internal systems that allow sharper performance. Later, it can retreat to water to avoid overheating, using the river not only as hunting ground, but as thermal shelter. This rhythm shapes when and how the animal hunts. In cooler conditions, explosive performance may be limited. In warm conditions, its muscles can respond with greater speed, But overheating becomes a risk if it stays exposed too long. The crocodile's day is therefore a balance between heat, hunger, risk, and opportunity. It is not simply waiting because waiting is easy. It is waiting because in its body, timing is tied to temperature, and temperature is tied to survival. The jaws complete the launch, but they are not the whole system. Crocodile bite force is famously powerful, especially in larger species, yet even a smaller crocodile benefits from a skull designed to seize and hold. The teeth are conical rather than slicing blades, built for gripping struggling prey rather than chewing it into neat pieces. Once contact is made, the goal is control. A fish may be swallowed quickly. A larger animal may be dragged, repositioned, or drowned if the crocodile can maintain its hold. In water, even a smaller predator gains leverage because buoyancy changes the contest. Prey that might kick, flap, or push effectively on land can lose traction at the edge. Mud slips, water resists, panic wastes motion. The crocodile's body is already at home in the medium where the struggle is now happening. There is a quiet efficiency in this kind of predation that can feel colder than brute strength. A saltwater crocodile overwhelms imagination because it is massive enough to make the river seem owned. The freshwater crocodile teaches a different lesson. The exact strike can be as frightening as the enormous one. Its danger lies in how little warning is required. A still animal becomes a moving line. A calm surface becomes a launch ramp. A drinking edge becomes a trap defined by centimeters. The prey does not fail because it ignored a roaring predator. It fails because it stepped into a distance where biology and physics were already waiting. From a camera low at the bank, the scene would not begin with obvious menace. It would begin with heat shimmer over stone, the slow tick of insects, the soft slap of water against roots, and a crocodile head barely interrupting the reflection of the sky. A small bird moves along the edge, careful but thirsty. It watches the open air because danger often comes from wings, claws, or movement in the grass. The water remains still enough to look empty. Then the geometry closes. The bird leans. Its feet enter the mud. The crocodile's body compresses beneath the surface. The tail drives once, hard. The head arrives where the prey's body is, not where it was. That distinction is the mark of a successful ambush predator. The crocodile is not reacting wildly to prey. It is striking into a predicted position. Patience lowers the miss rate because the animal refuses the bad version of the hunt. It does not launch when the target is too far, too alert, too angled away, or too close to solid escape. It waits until the prey has helped build the trap by entering the cone, committing its weight, and narrowing its own options. In that moment, the crocodile's smaller size becomes irrelevant. The strike is not trying to win a wrestling match against the whole landscape. It is trying to win one explosive second. The freshwater crocodile's chapter in this story is therefore not about being the most powerful animal in Australian water. It is about the discipline of limited force used perfectly. It shows how ambush predators turn stillness into stored energy, how water hides preparation, how the line between safe and reachable can be thinner than a footprint in mud. The physics here is not the open ocean collision of a shark or the coordinated water control of orcas. It is the mathematics of patience. Wait until the prey is close enough, angled wrong enough, committed enough, and then release everything at once. The river may look calm before it happens. That calm is not peace, it is compression.